Have you ever paused and truly wondered what it means to live alone as you age? Not just the practical side, like maintaining a home or managing a routine without company, but the deeper, often hidden layers of what this experience brings. It's a reality that holds both challenge and beauty, yet so few people openly talk about it. When we think of living alone, particularly later in life, our minds often flash to images of solitude or independence. But what about the subtler nuances? What about the mornings filled with quiet introspection, or the afternoons when a slight breeze through an open window stirs 1,000 memories? Living alone as an older person is not simply a matter of physical space. It's a journey of the spirit, of the mind, and perhaps most significantly, of the heart. For many, it's a new chance to rediscover oneself, to learn resilience, and to uncover forms of joy that are quieter, softer, and deeply personal. We often see a life of solitude framed in terms of limitations, the assumption that without the constant hum of others around us, we are somehow missing something. But is that really the whole story? There is a hidden richness in embracing solitude, in making peace with one's own company, and even learning to revel in it. Imagine waking up each day with the quiet freedom to decide how you'll spend it, without needing to bend to the schedules of others. Or taking a moment to savor a cup of coffee, listening to the sounds of the neighborhood waking up, knowing you have the power to fill the day with whatever brings you peace or purpose. In this video, we'll talk about these hidden layers, peeling back the surface to reveal the moments of profound connection and independence that living alone can offer, lessons that often go unmentioned but can bring an extraordinary depth to our lives. This journey isn't without its challenges. There are, of course, the practicalities, managing daily routines, staying connected, and ensuring that our needs are met. But as we'll explore together, these practical challenges come with their own rewards. With every problem solved, there's a sense of accomplishment that is uniquely personal. With every new skill learned, whether it's fixing a small household problem or planning a day with nothing but your own preferences in mind, there is a feeling of empowerment that fills the heart with quiet confidence. Living alone can be, paradoxically, a path to building a profound connection with ourselves. For many who embrace this lifestyle, it becomes a chance to explore interests they never knew they had, to re-engage with the world in ways they hadn't considered, and to cultivate a sense of inner strength that fuels their days. And we'll go even deeper, because there are elements to living alone that touch upon the very core of who we are as people. When we live by ourselves, we come face to face with our innermost selves in ways we may not have expected. It's not always easy. Sometimes the quiet can bring up emotions we had pushed aside, thoughts we'd forgotten or didn't want to confront. But in the stillness, there is also an invitation, a call to reconnect with our past, to accept where we are, and to dream of where we might go next. Living alone as an older person can teach us to listen to the rhythm of our own heartbeats, to tune into our personal desires and needs, and to find contentment in the knowledge that we have everything within us to lead a fulfilled and purposeful life. It's a revelation that transforms solitude from something to be managed into something to be celebrated. Throughout this video, I'll invite you to think deeply, perhaps even differently, about what living alone truly means. I'll share insights that others have found along the way, stories of people who have embraced their own space with courage and curiosity, and practical tips that can help make this lifestyle both enriching and enjoyable. Think of this as a conversation, a moment for you to reflect, to comment, to share your own stories if you wish. Maybe you're someone who already lives alone, finding your way through these very experiences. Or perhaps you're considering it, wondering what it might bring into your life. Wherever you are on this journey, there's a community here, a shared wisdom, and an open space for each of us to connect and grow. So, let's take this journey together. Let's explore what it means to create a life that is deeply our own, a life that's rich, purposeful, and filled with those small but profound moments that only come when we truly learn to live in our own company. Throughout, I'll ask questions, inviting you to join the conversation, to bring your own voice into this narrative. And at the end, we'll look back on all we've discussed, reflecting on how each piece of this journey, each discovery about solitude, connection, purpose, and self-care, comes together to form a life that's as vibrant and full as we choose to make it. 1. The art of finding beauty in solitude. Living alone invites us to step into a world of profound quiet, a silence that's different from anything we may have experienced in a life full of bustling activity, family routines, and the endless hum of other people's needs and voices. This solitude, for some, may initially feel like an empty silence, a space to be filled, a reminder of what's absent. But if we can shift our perspective and begin to see it differently, this solitude reveals a rich, intricate beauty of its own. The quiet can become a canvas, a space that allows us to hear ourselves for perhaps the first time in years. Think about it. How often in life do we truly get the chance to sit alone with our thoughts, uninterrupted, in the comfort of our own home? Not alone by circumstance, but alone by choice, a choice to be fully present with ourselves. There's an art to finding beauty in this solitude, to noticing the subtle joys that come with simply being in your own company, and it's an art that many only discover later in life, when the world's expectations and demands begin to loosen their hold. For those who are willing to let go of the fear of being alone, there's a surprising joy to be found in the small, quiet rituals of the day. Imagine this: waking up slowly, without the rush to fulfill someone else's timetable, feeling the softness of the morning light filtering through the curtains, and taking a few deep breaths to greet the day. You might put the kettle on, savor the sound of boiling water, the first sip of warm tea or coffee, all in complete silence. You're able to experience these things fully, not because they are grand or dramatic moments, but because they're yours. Little pieces of beauty that are woven into your day simply because you're there to witness them. Living alone, we have the luxury of slowing down, of taking in these simple pleasures that are easily overlooked in a world of noise and speed. We begin to see beauty in things as ordinary as the way sunlight dances on a table or the sound of rain against the window. These small details become companions of sorts, reflections of the stillness that now fills our days. Solitude, once embraced, offers us the chance to reconnect with parts of ourselves that might have been buried under years of responsibility and routine. Often, as we go through life's busier seasons, we lose touch with old interests, curiosities, or passions that once lit us up. Yet, in solitude, those pieces of ourselves can surface again, as if emerging from a long hibernation. Perhaps you used to love to paint, to play an instrument, or to read novels for hours on end. Living alone provides the perfect backdrop to revisit these old loves, to rekindle the parts of ourselves that have been waiting quietly in the wings. There's no one to rush you, no one to distract you from the things that genuinely bring you joy. It's just you, with all the time and space to explore whatever brings you back to life. There's something deeply fulfilling about returning to these old passions, realizing that they've been waiting for you all along, ready to bring a new light to your days. It's in these moments of solitary rediscovery that we come to see solitude not as a void, but as a space brimming with possibility. For many who have learned to appreciate solitude, there's an almost sacred quality to the quiet hours. Solitude can become a form of self-love, a time to check in with ourselves, to nurture our minds and hearts in ways that only we can. It teaches us to listen to ourselves, to the natural rhythms of our days, and to the subtle signs of what we truly need. We begin to hear our own thoughts more clearly, to reflect on our experiences without the filter of others' opinions. Living alone creates a space where we can connect with ourselves on a deeper level, finding meaning in the things that are truly ours. And in doing so, we develop an intimacy with ourselves that's profound and sustaining. It's as if solitude becomes a mirror, showing us our own inner landscapes, helping us to understand who we are beneath all the roles we've played for others. But of course, there are times when this solitude challenges us, when the quiet becomes too quiet, and the loneliness we thought we'd escaped creeps in. These moments can feel daunting, even heavy. But here's the thing, it's precisely in facing these moments that we grow. When we choose to sit with our loneliness rather than run from it, we discover a resilience we might never have known we had. We learn that we are enough, that we have the capacity to soothe ourselves, to find comfort in our own presence. And as we become more comfortable with ourselves, the need for constant companionship or external validation fades. We learn to trust ourselves, to lean into our own strength. The solitude that once seemed like an empty space gradually fills with self-assurance, with a quiet confidence that can only come from within. So, let this be an invitation to see solitude in a new light, to not shy away from the silence, but to step into it, to find beauty in its depth and texture. Think of solitude as a gift, a rare opportunity to rediscover yourself, to embrace all that you are without compromise. And in those quiet moments, as you sip your morning coffee or gaze at the world outside your window, remember that this solitude is something uniquely yours, a part of your journey that holds lessons, joys, and insights no one else can give you. It's an art, one that takes time to master. But once we do, we find that living alone isn't about being isolated. It's about being deeply, wonderfully connected to ourselves. If you're listening to this and recognizing some of these moments in your own life, or if you're just beginning to embrace this path, take a moment to share. Have you found beauty in the quiet? Has solitude surprised you with its gifts? Comment below. Tell us about your own experiences with solitude, the small rituals, the moments of peace, the challenges. Let's create a space where we can celebrate this art together, where we can remind each other that solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be cherished, a precious part of living a life that's truly, deeply, and beautifully our own. 2. Developing your own rhythm, the freedom to set your own pace. One of the most extraordinary gifts of living alone, particularly later in life, is the freedom to create a rhythm that is entirely your own. For so many of us, life has been defined by the schedules and routines of others, the need to meet family obligations, professional demands, and the seemingly endless checklist of what others expect from us. But when you're finally able to shape your day according to your own wishes and needs, life takes on a different texture. It's a freedom that few anticipate, but one that, when embraced, can bring a profound sense of peace. Think about it. Instead of waking up to an alarm or scrambling to meet the demands of the day, you can slowly ease into the morning, letting your body and mind determine the pace. You might choose to linger over breakfast, savoring each bite, letting the flavors ground you in the present. Or perhaps, if mornings energize you, you take this time to stretch, to move, or to engage in some gentle exercise, not because anyone is waiting on you to do so, but because it feels good to honor what your body needs. When we live alone, we learn that every day can be an opportunity to listen to our own rhythms, to let go of the rush and flow through life at a pace that feels nourishing and kind. Imagine the gift of unhurried time. There is no one to dictate the shape of your day, but you. And with that comes the ability to embrace each hour with intention. You might spend a slow morning wandering through the pages of a favorite book, letting yourself become completely absorbed without the need to keep an eye on the clock. Or perhaps you discover the beauty of afternoon naps, curling up with a soft blanket and drifting off, knowing that there is no one waiting for you to wake, no task that needs to be done right away. You have the freedom to follow your energy, to rest when you need it, and to act when inspiration strikes. There's a rare joy in learning that not every hour needs to be productive in the conventional sense. Living alone offers the space to redefine productivity, to see it as something personal, something that serves your own well-being rather than a checklist of obligations. Here, you learn that productivity can mean caring for a garden, preparing a simple, nourishing meal, or spending an afternoon walking through a park, letting the world go by as you soak in the beauty of a quiet day. For many, crafting a personal rhythm means reclaiming parts of themselves they've long forgotten. Perhaps you've always loved the arts, but life's responsibilities kept you from fully exploring your creative side. Now, without the constraints of others' schedules or the pressures of a busy household, you find that there's time to paint, to write, to play music, or to build something with your hands. The beauty of this stage is that you can move at your own pace, allowing your passions to unfold slowly and naturally. There's no rush, no need to perform for anyone but yourself. You can spend an entire afternoon painting without a single interruption, or sit at the piano and lose yourself in the music, not because anyone expects it of you, but because it brings you joy. And there is something deeply empowering in this freedom. Living alone teaches us that time is ours to shape, that we have the right to fill our days in ways that reflect who we truly are. In doing so, we not only reconnect with old passions, but often discover new ones that surprise us with their depth and resonance. Of course, creating your own rhythm doesn't mean every day will be effortless or perfectly structured. There will be times when the freedom feels almost overwhelming, when the open hours stretch out and the question of "what should I do today?" lingers without an answer. But these moments of uncertainty can become invitations to listen more closely to ourselves. Perhaps we learn to ask not "what should I do?" but "what do I want to feel?" From there, the possibilities begin to reveal themselves. Maybe you want to feel calm, so you spend the day engaged in quiet, soothing activities. Or perhaps you want to feel inspired, so you seek out new books, films, or activities that stir your imagination. In learning to trust our own instincts, to guide our days with intention rather than obligation, we develop a profound sense of self-reliance and contentment. Living alone offers the chance to let go of rigidity, to flow with our own needs and desires, to treat each day as a blank canvas that reflects not what is expected of us, but what we truly crave. There's something deeply comforting about falling into a routine that belongs only to you. When you live alone, even the smallest rituals become acts of self-care, grounding you in the present and reminding you that your time is yours to shape. Maybe you end each day with a quiet moment of reflection, writing in a journal, or simply sitting with a cup of tea, reviewing the day's moments and noticing the things you're grateful for. Or perhaps you create a morning ritual, a way to greet the day that feels like an act of celebration. These personal rituals, which might seem small or insignificant to others, become profound expressions of self-love and agency. Living alone, you come to understand that you are enough, that your routines, your preferences, and your rhythm are perfectly valid. You learn to find joy in your own ways of being, to see each day as a chance to honor the things that bring you peace and fulfillment. And in this rhythm, we find a sense of home within ourselves. As you listen to this, maybe you recognize some of these freedoms in your own life, or perhaps you're still discovering what it means to set your own pace. I invite you to think about your own rhythm, about the moments of the day that feel truly yours, the rituals and routines that bring you comfort. What would you do if each day were a blank canvas, if each hour could be filled according to your own desires and needs? Share with us in the comments. Let's inspire one another with the ways we honor our own rhythms, the small rituals that make our days meaningful. Living alone is not about isolation, but about discovering the beauty of self-directed living, about learning to dance to our own beat and realizing that, in doing so, we create a life that is truly, authentically ours. 3. Navigating and nurturing new connections, embracing friendships with depth. Living alone doesn't have to mean living without connection. In fact, it often opens doors to friendships that are deeper, more intentional, and more fulfilling than those we may have experienced during busier seasons of life. When you're no longer caught up in the day-to-day routines of shared living, your relationships take on a different quality. They're no longer defined by proximity or convenience, but by genuine choice and shared values. Living alone allows you to build friendships not out of necessity, but out of a desire for true connection. It's a chance to explore relationships that are built on mutual respect, curiosity, and kindness, rather than obligation or habit. In this way, living alone often becomes a journey not just inward, but outward too. A journey toward people who add depth and warmth to our lives in ways we might not have expected. These friendships often feel like a revelation, a reminder that we can find companionship without compromising our newfound independence. The beauty of nurturing friendships as an older adult living alone is that you approach relationships from a place of fullness rather than need. In the quiet of your own home, you've come to know yourself in a way that may have eluded you in earlier stages of life. You're no longer seeking others to fill a void or to validate your worth. Instead, you're looking to share the richness of who you are with people who bring out the best in you. This shift makes each connection more intentional and profound. Imagine the joy of meeting a friend for coffee and knowing that every moment spent together is meaningful, not because you need them to complete your life, but because they enrich it. You're able to approach these friendships with a calm assurance, a sense of wholeness that allows you to be fully present, to give of yourself without reservation, and to receive with gratitude. Living alone often helps us realize that friendship is not about quantity, but about quality, about finding people who understand and appreciate us for who we truly are. These connections are often rooted in shared interests and passions, giving you the chance to cultivate friendships that feel aligned with the life you've crafted for yourself. Maybe you've joined a book club, a gardening group, or a local community class where people gather to share their skills, stories, and laughter. Perhaps you've become part of a group that meets regularly for morning walks, each person bringing their unique perspective and energy, turning a simple activity into something vibrant and full of life. There's something beautiful about connecting with people who share your interests, about finding yourself among others who are passionate about the same things. In these spaces, friendship is woven together by more than just small talk. It's built on a foundation of shared experiences, mutual curiosity, and the simple joy of being in one another's company. As an older adult, these kinds of connections can feel like a gift, a reminder that companionship can still be meaningful, fresh, and full of discovery. Living alone also teaches us the value of reaching out, of taking the initiative to nurture these connections. When we're young, friendships often form naturally through school, work, or family ties. But as we get older, they require a bit more intention. And yet, this intentionality brings a richness to our relationships that is unique. You learn to cherish the connections you have, to make an effort to check in with those you care about, to invite them over for a quiet meal or a shared cup of tea. The act of reaching out becomes a gesture of love, a way of saying, "I value you, I want you in my life." And in doing so, you find that friendships flourish, that they grow stronger because they're rooted in mutual effort and respect. Living alone gives you the time and space to invest in these relationships thoughtfully, to build connections that are both resilient and rewarding. You begin to see friendship as a garden that needs tending, and with each call, each visit, each shared moment, you water the bonds that bring joy and warmth into your life. But perhaps one of the most profound aspects of navigating friendships as an older adult is the chance to cultivate relationships that are deeply understanding and empathetic. With age comes experience, and with experience, a certain wisdom that softens our judgments and opens our hearts. As you form new friendships or deepen existing ones, you find that people are more accepting, more compassionate, and more willing to embrace each other's imperfections. Living alone often brings a certain humility, a recognition of our shared vulnerability, of the challenges we each face in our solitary journeys. This awareness creates space for kindness, for friendships that are forgiving and generous. You may find that these connections are filled with a quiet understanding, a mutual respect that doesn't require constant affirmation, but rests in the knowledge that you're both there for each other. And in these friendships, you find a sense of belonging, a reminder that while you may live alone, you are never truly alone. Of course, living alone also means facing moments when companionship feels distant, when loneliness stirs and you long for the warmth of another's presence. But in these moments, you learn to be proactive, to reach out rather than retreat. You come to understand that companionship is something you can cultivate, that friendship is not just a passive experience, but an active choice. You find ways to stay connected, whether it's through phone calls, letters, or small gatherings with those who bring comfort and joy. These moments of reaching out become acts of self-care, ways to honor your need for connection while respecting the independence you cherish. In living alone, you realize that friendships are not merely about filling time, but about enriching it, about creating shared memories that add color and meaning to your life. And each time you connect, each time you share a laugh or a story with someone who matters to you, you're reminded of the joy that human connection brings, a joy that's all the more precious because it's chosen. So if you're listening to this and feeling the impact of meaningful friendships in your own life, or if you're wondering how to cultivate deeper connections as you live alone, take a moment to reflect. Think about the people who bring light into your life, the friends who make you feel seen and understood. Maybe they're people you see often, or maybe they're friends you connect with from afar. Whatever the case, share your story. Tell us about the friendships that have shaped you, the connections that make your days brighter. Living alone gives us the chance to approach friendship with clarity and intention, to seek out people who enrich our lives rather than simply fill our time. In doing so, we create a circle of companionship that supports us, uplifts us, and reminds us that we're all part of something larger than ourselves. And in the quiet moments, as we reflect on the friends who have walked beside us, we find a deep sense of gratitude for these connections, a reminder that living alone does not mean going through life alone, but rather choosing the people who truly matter, one friendship at a time. 4. Finding purpose in personal projects, bringing value to your own life. When we live alone, particularly in our later years, we discover that life has slowed down in a way that invites us to explore something rare and beautiful: the luxury of time to devote to personal passions, hobbies, and projects that bring us joy and meaning. These projects, however small or grand, become more than just ways to fill the day. They are expressions of who we are and reflections of our innermost selves. For some, it might mean dusting off an old easel and returning to the world of painting, experimenting with colors and forms in a way that feels both fresh and familiar. For others, it may be the quiet but rewarding process of tending to a garden, watching as seeds you've sown transform, with time and care, into vibrant blooms or nourishing vegetables. In these personal projects, there's a sense of purpose that can be deeply fulfilling, a reminder that life's meaning isn't something we need to search for outside of ourselves. It's something we create day by day in the simple acts that bring us joy. Imagine the feeling of waking up each morning with a project that's entirely your own, a pursuit that brings structure to your day and allows you to see the tangible results of your efforts. Living alone, there's a unique satisfaction in knowing that what you choose to dedicate your time to is done entirely for your own fulfillment. Maybe it's a writing project you've been working on for years, a memoir, a novel, or even a series of poems that capture moments from your life. There's no rush, no pressure to complete it by a specific deadline, only the gentle rhythm of your own creativity unfolding in its own time. And as you work, whether it's an hour here or an entire afternoon there, you feel a sense of accomplishment that is purely yours. Each word, each brushstroke, each seed planted and nurtured, these are pieces of yourself that you're bringing to life, small affirmations of your own resilience, creativity, and curiosity. Living alone, you have the freedom to follow these passions wherever they may lead, exploring them deeply without distraction or interruption, honoring the things that make your heart feel full. These personal projects don't just bring purpose, they also give structure to our days in a way that feels organic and rewarding. In a world that often equates productivity with busyness, there's something truly liberating about choosing to fill our time with activities that feed our soul rather than simply fill the hours. When we live alone, each day becomes a canvas, and we are the artists who decide how it will look. Perhaps you set aside mornings for creative pursuits and afternoons for physical activity or time spent outdoors. Or maybe you discover a new interest, learning to cook a cuisine you've never tried before, experimenting with recipes, and finding joy in the act of preparing meals that are both nourishing and comforting. With each project, you're not only engaging your mind and body, but also cultivating a relationship with yourself that is supportive, encouraging, and kind. Living alone teaches us that structure doesn't have to be rigid. It can be a gentle framework that allows us to move through our days with purpose and intention, knowing that every moment we spend on our passions is a moment spent enriching our own lives. There is also a profound sense of self-worth that grows when we invest in personal projects. Each time we set out to accomplish something on our own, no matter how small, we remind ourselves of our own capabilities. Maybe you take on a new challenge, like learning a musical instrument, and at first it's difficult, even frustrating. But as the days go by, you notice small improvements, a new fluidity in your fingers, a clearer sound in the notes, and with each step forward, there's a sense of pride that no one else can give you. Living alone, we learn that we are our own best sources of encouragement, that we can lift ourselves up through the things we create and the goals we set. These projects become mirrors of our growth, our resilience, our willingness to try and to learn. They remind us that we are capable, that we can still achieve, create, and contribute to the world in meaningful ways, no matter our age or stage in life. It's a deeply empowering realization, one that fills us with a quiet confidence and a renewed appreciation for all that we are capable of. But personal projects are not only about what we can achieve, they're also about the joy of immersing ourselves in something simply because it brings us pleasure. When we live alone, we have the space to rediscover the joy of doing things solely for the love of it. Maybe you find yourself drawn to photography, wandering through your neighborhood with a camera, capturing the light as it falls on a quiet street, or the expressions on people's faces as they go about their day. Each photo becomes a memory, a small piece of the world that you've chosen to hold on to. Or perhaps you love crafting, and you spend hours knitting, sewing, or building something with your hands. There's a meditative quality to these activities, a sense of peace that comes from focusing on a single task and allowing yourself to be fully present in it. In these moments, time seems to stand still, and you find that the joy of creating, of bringing something new into the world, is its own reward. And yet, even in this solitude, these projects often have a way of connecting us with others. Perhaps you share your creations with friends, gifting them a scarf you've knitted or a small painting you've finished. And in doing so, you're able to express a part of yourself in a way that words may not convey. Or maybe you join a community of like-minded individuals who share your passion, attending local meetups, joining online forums, or even participating in workshops. Living alone doesn't mean being disconnected. It means having the freedom to choose our connections, to seek out people who inspire and uplift us. These personal projects become a bridge, a way of reaching out to others who share our interests, creating bonds that are rooted not in obligation, but in genuine, shared joy. In nurturing our own passions, we often find a community that understands and celebrates the same things we hold dear. If you're listening to this and recognizing your own passions, or if you've been considering starting a new project but haven't yet taken the leap, I encourage you to think about what brings you joy. What have you always wanted to explore, to create, to learn? Maybe it's something you once loved but left behind, or perhaps it's a new interest that's only now emerging. Whatever it may be, let yourself dive into it, knowing that this is time well spent, a gift you're giving yourself. Share your story with us in the comments. Tell us about the projects that bring you purpose, the passions that make your days meaningful. Living alone offers a unique chance to build a life that is truly our own, a life filled with the things we love. And in dedicating ourselves to these projects, we find that we're not only filling our days, but enriching our hearts, crafting a life that is as fulfilling and vibrant as we choose to make it. 5. Mastering self-care as a solo art, honoring your well-being. Living alone as an older adult transforms the concept of self-care into something far more profound than simply following routines or ensuring basic well-being. It becomes an intimate practice, an art of nurturing oneself with a care and attentiveness that flows from deep self-compassion and respect. When we live alone, Self-care is no longer about checking off boxes or following a prescribed formula. It's about truly listening to our own needs and creating a life that supports our physical, mental, and emotional health in ways that feel deeply personal and sustaining. It's an art that grows more refined with time, as we learn to recognize our own rhythms, to honor what our bodies and minds truly require each day. In solitude, we're offered a rare opportunity to build a relationship with ourselves that is rooted in understanding, patience, and genuine love. Self-care becomes an ongoing conversation with ourselves, a gentle commitment to treat each day as an opportunity to support our well-being in whatever ways feel most nourishing and kind. In the quiet of our own space, we find that self-care extends beyond the surface level and becomes something transformative. It's not simply about maintaining physical health, though that is important. It's about cultivating an environment that feels safe, comfortable, and welcoming. Living alone, we come to realize that our home is not just a place to sleep or eat, but a true sanctuary, a reflection of who we are and what we value. Each room, each corner, becomes a space we can shape to nurture our spirit. Perhaps you create a reading nook by a sunny window where you can lose yourself in the pages of a favorite book. Or maybe you set up a small meditation corner, a place where you can sit in stillness and reconnect with yourself each morning. These small acts of creating a home that feels deeply supportive are forms of self-care that go beyond any wellness trend. They're expressions of love and respect for ourselves, reminders that our well-being is worth the effort. Living alone gives us the freedom to design our space to reflect our needs, to craft an environment that doesn't just serve us, but uplifts us day after day. Self-care, when you live alone, also becomes a practice in resilience. There are days when the quiet feels too heavy, when the solitude reminds us of the people we miss or the moments we long to share. It's in these moments that self-care becomes an act of courage, a reminder that we have the strength to care for ourselves even when things feel difficult. It might mean acknowledging the loneliness rather than pushing it away, sitting with it and allowing ourselves to feel what we need to feel. Or it might mean reaching out, calling a friend, or planning a small outing, recognizing that self-care sometimes involves inviting others into our world. Living alone teaches us that resilience is not about denying our needs, but about meeting them with compassion. We learn to give ourselves what we might once have sought from others, a comforting word, a reminder of our own worth, or simply the permission to take things slow. Each time we care for ourselves in these challenging moments, we build a reservoir of inner strength, a quiet confidence that reminds us we are capable of tending to our own hearts with the same love and care we might offer to someone else. Physical self-care, too, takes on a new depth when we live alone. Without the presence of others to remind us of routines, we become the guardians of our own health, learning to listen to our bodies and honor what they need. This might mean developing a morning exercise habit, whether it's a walk through the neighborhood, a few gentle stretches, or a full workout that leaves us feeling energized. It's not about meeting anyone else's expectations or following the latest fitness trend. It's about moving in ways that make us feel alive and connected to our bodies. We might find ourselves becoming more attuned to what nourishes us, experimenting with cooking meals that feel both comforting and healthy, savoring each bite as an act of care. These daily practices, simple as they may seem, become rituals that ground us, helping us build a life that feels vibrant and sustainable. Living alone encourages us to take full responsibility for our physical health, to treat it not as a duty, but as an expression of gratitude for all that our bodies allow us to do. Emotional self-care, perhaps, is where living alone brings the most profound lessons. In solitude, we come face to face with our own thoughts, fears and hopes, with no one else there to distract us from what's truly on our minds. This can be both challenging and deeply liberating, a chance to explore our own inner landscapes and find ways to support our emotional well-being. Perhaps you develop a journaling practice, a way to process your thoughts and feelings, to make sense of the day's events and your responses to them. Or maybe you find peace in mindfulness or meditation, learning to observe your thoughts without judgment, to hold space for yourself in moments of anxiety or doubt. Living alone, we learn that we are our own best companions, that we can be present for ourselves in ways that no one else can. Emotional self-care becomes a form of self-respect, a commitment to honor our feelings and to treat ourselves with kindness, even on days when we feel vulnerable. Each time we sit with our own emotions, each time we offer ourselves the patience and compassion we might offer a friend, we strengthen our capacity to be at peace with ourselves. In mastering self-care as a solo art, we also learn to embrace the small daily rituals that bring us joy and comfort. Perhaps it's the way you end each evening with a cup of herbal tea, letting its warmth calm you as you prepare for sleep. Or maybe it's the way you begin each day with a few moments of gratitude, acknowledging the blessings in your life and setting an intention for the day ahead. These small rituals, though seemingly insignificant, become the threads that weave our days together, bringing a sense of continuity and peace. Living alone, we come to cherish these moments as acts of self-love, as ways of reminding ourselves that we deserve care, gentleness, and joy. They remind us that we are worth the time and effort it takes to make our lives beautiful, that self-care is not something we do only in times of need, but something we cultivate every day as a way of honoring the lives we are building for ourselves. If you're listening to this and resonating with the journey of self-care as a solo art, or if you're just beginning to explore what it means to truly care for yourself, take a moment to reflect on the ways you nurture your own well-being. What are the rituals, the practices, the small moments that bring you peace and strength? Share them with us in the comments. Let's inspire one another with the ways we honor ourselves, the ways we bring comfort and joy into our lives. Living alone offers us the unique chance to build a relationship with ourselves that is nurturing, compassionate, and resilient. In mastering the art of self-care, we find that we are not only creating a life that is sustainable, but a life that is deeply, beautifully our own. And in each act of care, we remind ourselves that we are worth it, that our well-being matters, and that we have within us everything we need to create a life filled with peace, purpose, and love. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply and reflect on all the richness that living alone has to offer. Perhaps you too have sensed the quiet power of solitude, the hidden beauty in waking up each day with the freedom to shape your own path, unbound by others' schedules or expectations. Living alone may seem daunting to some, but as we've explored together, it's also an invitation, a chance to explore life with a depth and intentionality that can be truly transformative. Living alone is not about loneliness or isolation. It's about crafting a life that is filled with purpose, connection, and peace. A life that reflects who you are at your core. Every day becomes a testament to your resilience, your ability to find joy and beauty in the small things, and your strength to face challenges with grace. In solitude, we are given the rare opportunity to step away from the noise of the world and to listen to the quiet whispers of our own hearts, to rediscover parts of ourselves that may have been tucked away, waiting for a moment to breathe and unfold. Remember the moments of beauty that solitude brings, the art of finding comfort in your own presence, the joy of creating a personal rhythm that flows gently without the rush or urgency of others' needs. Living alone allows you to find these hidden treasures, to cultivate an environment where each day is crafted according to your own preferences, where you are free to honor your own desires and explore passions that perhaps you've set aside for far too long. Whether it's painting, gardening, writing, or simply finding pleasure in a quiet morning coffee, these small rituals become the heartbeat of your life, grounding you, connecting you to the present, and filling your days with a sense of purpose that no one else can provide. And as you move through this rhythm, you discover a deep inner strength, a reminder that you are not just capable, but beautifully self-sufficient, that you have everything within you to live a life of fulfillment, meaning, and contentment. Let's not forget the warmth that genuine connections bring. Living alone doesn't mean that friendships fade or that bonds weaken. In many ways, it's an invitation to nurture deeper, more intentional relationships. These friendships, built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared joy, become a vital part of the journey. Each connection is a reminder that, while we may live alone, we are never truly alone. Friends, old and new, become a cherished presence, adding color and laughter to our days, reminding us that companionship, even if occasional, can still bring profound joy. It's the freedom to choose who we spend time with, to connect in ways that feel authentic and fulfilling. Living alone teaches us the value of choosing friendships that uplift, encourage, and celebrate us for who we truly are, without expectations or demands. In this way, solitude becomes a bridge to deeper human connections, allowing us to give and receive freely, to build relationships that are rooted in genuine understanding and love. And then there's the power of dedicating ourselves to personal projects, to hobbies, and to pursuits that bring our hearts alive. When we live alone, these passions become more than mere distractions. They are the very essence of a life well lived, a way of expressing ourselves, of creating something that is uniquely ours. Each project, each hobby, becomes a part of our identity, a small testament to our creativity and resilience. It could be as simple as learning to cook a new dish, knitting a scarf, or planting a flower garden. Or it could be a larger endeavor, like writing a book or painting a series of landscapes. Whatever it may be, these pursuits bring structure and joy to our days, filling our lives with meaning and purpose. They remind us that we are not defined by our relationship status or our social lives, but by our ability to create, to dream, and to bring beauty into the world. Living alone, we come to see that we are our own best companions, that we can find fulfillment not only in others, but within ourselves, in the passions we pursue and the projects we bring to life. And finally, let's honor the incredible journey of mastering self-care, of learning to meet our own needs with compassion, patience, and love. Living alone, we become the caretakers of our own well-being, discovering what it means to truly nurture ourselves, to show up for ourselves with the same kindness we might offer to a loved one. Self-care becomes a holistic practice, encompassing not just our physical health, but our emotional and mental well-being. It's about crafting a life that feels gentle and kind, a life that supports us in every way. From creating a peaceful home environment, to honoring our bodies with nourishing food and gentle movement, to cultivating mental resilience and emotional strength, self-care becomes a daily expression of love and respect for ourselves. And through this journey, we realize that we are not only capable of caring for ourselves, but that we can do so with grace, joy, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Living alone teaches us that we are enough, that we are deserving of care, of comfort, and of peace. As we close, I encourage you to reflect on what living alone means to you. Perhaps you are already embracing this journey, finding beauty in the quiet, joy in the simplicity, and strength in your independence. Or perhaps you are just beginning, stepping into this chapter with questions, hopes, and maybe a bit of uncertainty. Whatever your path, know that you are not alone in this experience. Living alone is a journey that many of us share, a path that can bring us closer to ourselves, closer to what truly matters. If these reflections have resonated with you, take a moment to share your own story, your own insights. Comment below. Tell us about the joys and challenges you've encountered, the lessons you've learned, and the beauty you've found. Let's create a space where we can uplift and inspire one another, where we can remind each other that living alone is not just an experience. It's an art, a beautiful and empowering way of life that brings us closer to our true selves. Thank you for being a part of this journey, for listening, for reflecting, and for opening your heart to the possibilities of a life lived in harmony with oneself. Living alone may come with its challenges, but it also brings gifts beyond measure, a deeper understanding of who we are, a profound appreciation for the small joys, and the freedom to live life on our own terms. As you move forward, may you find peace in the quiet moments, joy in the simple things, and strength in the knowledge that you are enough, just as you are. This journey is yours, and with each step, you are crafting a life that is richly, authentically, and beautifully your own.